Hi there, and welcome back to Lynn Reads, the channel where we share powerful insights and personal growth lessons through great books. From the battlefields of Alexander the Great to the endless steppes of Genghis Khan, from medieval plowfields to the bustling streets of New York, one animal has carried humanity through every chapter of history: the horse. This is the untold story of how horses shaped our civilization. If you enjoy what you hear and want to dive deeper, we've included a link to the book in the description below. Now, let's get started. The Horse: A Galloping History of Humanity, 2024, is a sweeping exploration of how the horse has shaped and propelled human civilization across thousands of years. From its evolutionary origins to its central role in warfare, agriculture, and culture. This book uncovers the profoundly often overlooked impact of this majestic animal on the course of human history. Dr. Timothy C. Winegard is a historian, best-selling author, and associate professor at Colorado Mesa University, with a wide-ranging background that includes service in the Canadian and British Armed Forces and a doctorate from the University of Oxford. Winegard is recognized for his distinctive and insightful perspectives. His previous work, The Mosquito: A Human History of Our Deadliest Predator, was named a New York Times bestseller, showcasing his unique approach to examining history through the lens of non-human creatures that have profoundly influenced the development of civilization, whether for good or ill. In English, the expression "to get back in the saddle after a failure" means to try again with renewed determination. At its core, saddle simply refers to a horse's seat. This is just one of many ways our language carries the imprint of the horse. Even today, we measure engine power in horsepower, testament to the animal's lasting influence. Such linguistic traces reveal a deeper truth. Horses were not just animals, but a revolutionary technology that reshaped human society over millennia. This book takes us on an extraordinary journey through that history. How the horse helped forge civilizations, revolutionized agriculture, warfare, travel, and global commerce. They pulled the plows that fed expanding populations, carried conquering armies across continents, and powered the growth of cities with their strength and speed. Prepare for a journey through time where the horse emerges not merely as an animal, but as a pivotal catalyst for human culture and progress. The story of the horse does not begin on the vast steppes of Asia or the grassy plains of Africa, but rather in the dense forests of North America. Remarkably, horses first appeared here some 55 million years ago. These early ancestors, no larger than a small dog, were known as Eohippus, the dawn horse. Primitive horses had multiple toes and survived by browsing on leafy forest plants. As Earth's climate shifted and grasslands began to spread, horses adapted accordingly. They grew larger in size, developed single hooves that allowed them to move swiftly across open ground, and evolved stronger teeth capable of grinding tough grasses. This gradual transformation unfolded over millions of years, producing numerous species of horses across North America. Then, around 2 to 3 million years ago, horses crossed the Bering Land Bridge into Asia, eventually spreading into Europe and Africa. Ironically, while thriving in these new regions, horses mysteriously vanished from their North American homeland roughly 10,000 years ago, likely due to a combination of climate change and human hunting. By the 19th century, fossil hunting had become something of a scientific obsession. This period witnessed the infamous Bone Wars, a fierce rivalry between paleontologists Othniel Charles Marsh and Edward Drinker Cope, though often marked by questionable tactics. Their competition led to numerous discoveries, including key fossils of horse ancestors. Marsh, in particular, made significant contributions by unearthing a sequence of fossils that clearly illustrated the horse's evolutionary journey. From small multi-toed forest dwellers to large single-toed grazers built for speed on the open plains. Many of these discoveries came from the ancient fossil beds of the White River Badlands in Nebraska and South Dakota, as well as the Wind River Basin in Wyoming. When Marsh presented his findings to Charles Darwin, the great naturalist was elated. Here was concrete evidence of gradual change over time, perfectly aligned with Darwin's theory of evolution. The horse family tree became a textbook example of evolution, showing how a species could adapt to environmental change across deep time. Yet, like many scientific narratives, the truth proved more complex than first imagined. Later studies revealed that horse evolution was not a simple, linear progression, but rather a branching tree with many dead ends and parallel developments. Still, the evolutionary saga of the horse remains a captivating story of adaptation and survival. From North America's ancient forests to the great grasslands of Eurasia, horses not only shaped ecosystems, but also became central to human societies. Their reintroduction to the Americas by European colonists marked the beginning of a new chapter in this remarkable history, one that would transform the New World forever. The precise moment when humans first domesticated and rode horses is lost in the mists of time, but scholars estimate it occurred around 5,000 years ago. Perhaps it began with a daring youth driven by the reckless urge to prove himself, who leaped onto the back of a wild horse and clung on as it thundered forward. Whatever the case, that bold act forever changed the trajectory of human civilization. By the time the Book of Revelation was written, nearly 2 millennia ago, the image of the four horsemen had already become deeply familiar, evidence of the horse's profound presence in the human psyche. In warfare, the horse proved nothing short of revolutionary, transforming the nature of battle. The Romans, masters of cavalry and chariot warfare, conquered vast swaths of Europe and North Africa. Yet it was in the East that the art of mounted combat truly reached its zenith. Alexander the Great, the legendary king of Macedonia, rode into history, astride his fabled warhorse Bucephalus, said to have been tamed by Alexander in his youth when no other could control it. Bucephalus became his inseparable companion through nearly every campaign, carrying him from Greece to India. Alexander's cavalry often played the decisive role in battle, their speed and power breaking enemy lines and sealing victory. Centuries later, an even more formidable cavalry force emerged from the Central Asian steppes. Genghis Khan and his Mongol warriors seemed almost born in the saddle. Their lives revolved entirely around the horse. They drank its milk, wore armor made from its hide, and relied on every part of the animal for survival. Each warrior commanded several horses, rotating between them so that their mounts remained fresh, allowing for astonishing long-distance travel at speeds that left enemies in awe. Mongol archers could release arrows with deadly accuracy even while galloping, at full tilt, a skill forged through harsh training from early childhood. Under Genghis Khan and his successors, this unmatched cavalry carved out the largest contiguous land empire in world history. Though their conquests were often brutal, they had an unexpected effect: the safeguarding and unification of the Silk Road. Historians call this era the Pax Mongolica, the Mongol peacetime of unprecedented exchange of goods, ideas, and cultures across Eurasia. Horses were not only the vehicles of war but also the primary means of transport for merchants, diplomats, and envoys who moved along these flourishing trade routes. From the thunderous hooves of Alexander's cavalry to the lightning strikes of Mongol horsemen, the horse has shaped the fate of empires. It carried conquerors to power and glory, while opening channels of commerce that connected distant civilizations. In doing so, this majestic creature not only changed the nature of warfare, it redrew the very map of the world. The story of the horse in the Americas is a tale of disappearance and dramatic return. As mentioned earlier, horses first evolved in North America millions of years ago, only to vanish mysteriously around 10,000 years ago. In the meantime, their relatives through migration and adaptations spread and diversified across the globe. In Africa, they evolved into the striped zebras, while in Central and South America, distant cousins such as the tapir emerged. The horse's reappearance in North America during the 16th century, brought by Spanish conquistadors, transformed the continent forever. Some of these imported horses escaped, while others were deliberately released, and they quickly adapted to the landscape. In time, vast herds of wild horses roamed the Great Plains. For Native American tribes, the return of the horse was nothing short of revolutionary, ushering in a new era. The Comanche were among the first tribes to master the horse, earning them the title Lords of the Plains. They not only developed sophisticated breeding programs, but also pioneered new riding techniques, such as hanging off the side of a galloping horse, to use the animal as a living shield in battle. The horse reshaped nearly every aspect of Native American life. Hunting became vastly more efficient, allowing warriors to pursue and bring down massive game such as bison with unmatched speed and effectiveness. Travel and transport were easier than ever before. Horses expanded trade networks, enabling tribes to connect and exchange goods more widely. Spiritually and culturally, horses also left their mark. Mythologies and rituals often featured the horse, and the Lakota, for example, developed intricate horse dances to honor the spirit of this powerful companion. Beyond everyday life, horses revolutionized native warfare. Mounted warriors could strike and retreat with astonishing speed, shifting the balance of power in conflicts both among tribes and against European invaders. The Comanche light cavalry, famous for its mobility and skill, successfully checked Spanish expansion northward for nearly 2 centuries. Yet the return of the horse also brought challenges. Competition for resources, especially grazing lands, increased dramatically. Tribal social structures shifted, and in some cases, conflicts between tribes intensified. In the end, the horse's return to North America completed a fascinating circle of history. Descendants of animals that had first evolved on this continent millions of years earlier came back to shape its culture and human destiny once again. The horse's rebirth in the Americas stands as powerful evidence of how a single species can profoundly influence human society, from daily life to warfare, from trade to spirituality. The horse was not only a force of conquest on the battlefield, but also a driving engine of change in agriculture and industry. From medieval farmlands to Victorian factories, horses, along with their close relatives, donkeys and mules, became the unseen motors that propelled the progress of human civilization. The medieval agricultural revolution bore the unmistakable imprint of the horse. Around the 8th century, a seemingly simple invention, the horse collar, transformed farming. Unlike older harnesses that constricted a horse's throat, the horse collar allowed the animal to exert its full strength without impeding its breathing. Paired with the heavy plow, this innovation unlocked a breakthrough in European agriculture. Horses could plow deeper and faster than oxen, opening up rich but heavy soils to cultivation. They could also work for longer hours. The result was a surge in crop yields, feeding growing populations and fueling the expansion of towns and cities. As Winegard observes, the explosion of horse-powered agriculture laid the foundations for Europe's eventual global dominance. But horses were not confined to the fields. They also powered the first stirrings of industry. Horse-drawn wagons and canal boats became critical for transporting goods across regions. Their muscle was harnessed to drive gristmills, sawmills, and water pumps in mines. Even the Industrial Revolution, so often associated with steam engines, was, in many ways, launched by the power of the horse. In textile factories, horses turned massive wheels that supplied energy to looms and spinning frames. In mines, they worked pumps and hauled coal to the surface. On the streets, the horse-drawn omnibus was the world's first form of public transit. Demand for horses soared. By the late 19th century, Britain alone employed over 300,000 working horses. In rural America, horse numbers skyrocketed from around 4 million in 1850 to 21 million by 1900. Mules, the hardy hybrids of horse and donkey, played an especially vital role. Valued for their strength, endurance, and steady temperament, mules became indispensable in construction, mining, and farming. The building of the Erie Canal, a monumental feat that opened vast new commercial opportunities for inland America, relied heavily on the tireless pull of mules. The horse's role in industry extended into surprising areas. Standardization and interchangeable parts, hallmarks of the industrial age, were first applied in the manufacturing of horse-drawn vehicle components. Even as steam and later electricity began to replace animal power, horses remained crucial. They hauled coal to power plants, delivered goods from factories to railway depots, and continued to supply most of the energy in agriculture. In fact, as late as 1900, an astonishing 90% of the energy used on American farms still came from horses and mules. By the late 19th century, in bustling cities like London and New York, horses were still the primary means of transportation. Hundreds of thousands toiled daily, pulling carriages and wagons across crowded streets. Each horse produced between 15 and 35 pounds 7 to 16 kilograms of manure per day, a staggering sanitation challenge for urban centers. Managing this mountain of waste became a crushing burden for city governments. Street cleaning was essential to maintain hygiene and prevent disease. In New York, a dedicated sanitation force, known as the White Wings, named for their distinctive white uniforms, worked tirelessly to keep the streets clean. Yet their efforts were often overwhelmed after heavy rain or snow, when manure mixed with mud to turn roads into foul, impassable quagmires. The massive presence of horses also required an equally massive infrastructure. Stables sprang up everywhere, often occupying valuable real estate. Saddle makers, blacksmiths, grooms, and stable managers formed a vital segment of the urban workforce. Haymarkets, feed stores, and carriage shops became ubiquitous sights in the city landscape. By 1894, the so-called manure crisis laid bare the unsustainable dependence on horses. Urban planners grimly predicted that within 50 years, London's streets would be buried under 9 feet of horse manure. This looming catastrophe spurred the urgent search for alternatives, paving the way for the automobile. The transition from horse to car was gradual but transformative. At first, the two shared the streets in chaotic coexistence. The noise and speed of early automobiles often spooked horses, creating dangerous situations. But by the 1920s, cars had largely replaced horses in most major cities. This shift dramatically reshaped the urban landscape. Stables were converted into garages or demolished for new construction. Street sanitation burdens eased, contributing to improved public health. Cities could expand more freely without being constrained by the logistical limits of horsepower. Yet, the automobile era brought its own problems. Traffic congestion, air pollution, and rapid urban sprawl became pressing challenges for city planners. The close bond between urban dwellers and animals, a defining feature of city life, for centuries gradually faded, altering the very character of urban existence. With the rise of the internal combustion engine and the automobile, the horse underwent a dramatic transformation from the backbone of the economy to inevitable obsolescence. As their economic value plummeted, millions of horses faced grim fates. Many were abandoned or sent to slaughterhouses. Between 1900 and 1960, the number of horses in the United States collapsed from 21 million to just 3 million. Those that survived often endured harsh industrial labor or were exported abroad as meat. Yet this decline unexpectedly opened a new chapter in the relationship between humans and horses. Freed from purely economic value, horses began to be appreciated in entirely different ways. People started recognizing their intangible gifts. Therapeutic riding programs emerged, using horses to help individuals with physical or psychological challenges. Their calm presence, gentle nature, and sensitivity proved powerful in promoting healing and personal growth. Horses also found renewed significance in the spiritual sphere. Some Native American tribes revived traditional horse cultures, viewing reconnection with horses as a reconnection with ancestral heritage. Meanwhile, New Age philosophy cast horses as spiritual teachers, celebrated for their intuition and positive energy. Riding itself shifted from necessity to recreation. Equestrian sports show jumping, dressage, and eventing attracted worldwide audiences. Even in bustling cities, horseback riding in parks offered residents rare moments of peace, nature, and respite. Conservation efforts likewise gained ground. In the United States, the Wild Free-Roaming Horses and Burros Act of 1971 granted protection to these iconic animals on public lands, though management of wild populations remains controversial. The legislation raised awareness of the importance of preserving this living symbol of the American West. Today, horses continue to connect us to history, to nature, and to ourselves. Their story is still being written, with new chapters of promise. In this era, humanity is learning to value horses not for what they can do, but for who they are. Intelligent, sensitive beings, with whom we share a deep and enduring bond. The central message of Timothy C. Winegard, S. The Horse. A Galloping History of Humanity revolves around the sweeping influence of horses on the development of human civilization. From their evolutionary roots in North America to their role in shaping global empires, horses have been indispensable to the story of humanity. From antiquity, horses were the loyal war mounts of conquerors like Alexander the Great and Genghis Khan, altering the very outcome of battles and redirecting the course of history. They also powered the agricultural revolution. The invention of the horse collar allowed humans to fully harness their strength, boosting productivity and fueling the rise of settled societies. In the modern era, horses remained vital engines of progress, especially during the early stages of the Industrial Revolution, driving machinery, transporting goods, and sustaining economies. Even as automobiles displaced them, horses found new roles in therapy, recreation, spirituality, and conservation. Ultimately, the horse is not just a history of an animal, it is a testament to the profound and enduring partnership between humans and horses. This symbiotic relationship has shaped our world in countless ways and continues to remind us of the importance of resilience, adaptability, and respect for the natural world. Having finished Timothy C. Winegard's The Horse, A Galloping History of Humanity, I came away with a renewed sense of awe for how deeply intertwined this animal is with the human story. Horses are not merely companions or tools, they are catalysts. Again and again, they appear at turning points in history, carrying conquerors across continents, pulling plows that fed booming populations, hauling goods that fueled industry, and later, even shaping the very design of our cities. What struck me most was the full circle narrative. Horses evolved in North America, vanished mysteriously, and then returned with the Spanish conquistadors only to revolutionize Native American societies. That arc alone shows how history is never linear, but woven with cycles of loss and renewal. I was also moved by the book's reminder that horses are more than engines of labor or symbols of conquest. In the modern age, freed from the burden of pure economic necessity, they have become healers, teachers, and companions once again. Therapeutic riding programs, spiritual traditions, and recreational equestrianism highlight the intangible values horses bring to human life: peace, connection, resilience, and trust. For me, the most powerful lesson is about adaptability and relationships. Horses have endured ice ages, empires, revolutions, and engines. Yet they remain by our side, reshaping and being reshaped by us. Their story mirrors our own struggle to survive, to innovate, and to find meaning. Ultimately, Winegard's book left me with both humility and gratitude. Humility, because it reveals how dependent humanity has been on the strength, speed, and spirit of another species. Gratitude, because despite everything, the bond between horse and human endures, reminding us that progress has always been a partnership, not a solitary endeavor. The age of engines may have replaced the horse on the streets and in the fields, but it has never replaced the bond between horse and human. The story of the horse is, ultimately, the story of us, of resilience, innovation, and partnership across time.